My name is Robinson Crusoe. I am from England, and I am 18 years old. My father is German, and my mother is English. I have two brothers and one sister. We are a good family, and we have always had enough. My father is a successful businessman, and we have money, a comfortable home, and everything we need. I went to a good school and I've had a good life, but there is something inside me that calls me elsewhere. I have a dream. I want to travel. I want to see the world beyond the walls of our home. I want to explore new places, meet different people, and experience adventures far beyond anything I have ever known. The sea, with all its mysteries and promise, draws me like nothing else. It is not just a place. It is freedom, a life I can't ignore. My father is a good man. He has worked hard to give me the best, and he only wants what's best for me. He wants me to follow in his footsteps, to continue his business and live a stable life. But my dream is not his dream. He cannot understand why I would want to leave behind a life of comfort and security for a life of uncertainty. He doesn't see the adventure that calls me. He doesn't see the life that I long for. The situation is not easy. I love my family and I respect my father, but I know that I cannot follow his path. I feel trapped in a life that is not mine to live. Every day I try to ignore my dreams, to be content with the life I have, but I can't. The sea calls to me, and it is a call I can no longer ignore. It is a quiet morning as I sit by the window, gazing out at the horizon. My father speaks to me about my future, about the importance of a stable career. He does not know that I have made up my mind. He does not know that soon I will leave this life behind and chase the dream that has burned in my heart for years. It is early in the morning, and I can hear my father speaking to me, his voice calm but firm. He tells me that life isn't always about chasing dreams and excitement. He talks about how important it is to have a steady job, to be responsible, and to make wise decisions for the future. His words are full of love and concern, but they feel like chains tightening around me, holding me in a life I do not want. My heart races as I think about what lies ahead. I look out the window at the streets of York, familiar and safe, but they no longer feel like my world. They feel small, like a cage, and I know that I cannot remain here. My dream of seeing the world is too strong. The sea is my destiny, calling me with its vast, endless horizon. Later that day, as I sit at the dinner table with my family, the weight of my decision presses down on me. My father asks me what my plans are for the future, as though I haven't already decided. I can see the concern in his eyes, the hope that I will choose a path that leads to security and success. He doesn't understand my longing for the unknown, the adventure that burns in my chest. I try to smile, to hide the truth, but I know he can see it in my eyes. Something is different, and I am no longer content to stay. That night I can barely sleep. The thought of leaving fills me with a mixture of excitement and fear. The fear is not of the unknown, but of disappointing my father, of breaking his heart. But the excitement of the adventure ahead outweighs the fear. I know what I must do. In the early hours of the morning, before anyone else is awake, I quietly pack a small bag. I take only what I need, a few clothes, some money, and a few belongings that will remind me of home. I don't tell anyone where I am going, not my mother. Not my father. I can't bear to hear their pleas, to see their disappointment. My heart aches as I leave my family behind, but I know that this is the only way to follow my dreams. I make my way to the docks in London, my mind racing with thoughts of what lies ahead. The city is alive with the bustle of merchants, sailors, and travelers. The ships line the harbor, their sails ready to take them to distant lands. I see one ship in particular, a merchant vessel bound for Africa, and I know that this is the one. It feels like fate. I approach the captain and offer to join the crew. He looks me over, probably thinking I am too young, too inexperienced, but something in me must have convinced him. He agrees, and I am given a position aboard the ship. I feel a rush of excitement. The journey I've dreamed of is finally beginning. As the ship sets sail, I stand at the bow, looking back at England one last time. My heart is full of mixed emotions. I am leaving behind everything I've ever known, but I am heading towards something greater, something that will define the rest of my life. The open sea stretches before me, endless and full of possibility. There is no turning back now. I am no longer Robinson Crusoe, the young man of York with a comfortable life. I am a sailor, a man of the world, about to face whatever challenges the sea has to offer. The wind fills the sails, and the ship begins to move faster, cutting through the waves. The shore fades into the distance, and I feel my heart swell with anticipation. The journey has just begun, and I know that nothing will ever be the same again. As the ship sails further from England, the landscape begins to blur. I stand at the edge of the deck, gazing out at the vast open sea. The familiar shores of home have already disappeared, swallowed by the horizon. A feeling of both freedom and uncertainty washes over me. I'm free, yet I know not what the future holds. My mind races with thoughts of adventure, the distant lands I will see, and the new experiences that await me. The crew aboard the ship is made up of men from all walks of life. Some are seasoned sailors, their faces hardened by years at sea, while others, like me, are new to the life of a seafarer. I am given simple tasks, learning the ropes and familiarizing myself with the ship. Each day I rise early and work alongside the crew, but my mind is often lost in thoughts of what lies ahead. The captain, a gruff man with a deep voice and sharp eyes, is strict, but he knows the sea well and commands respect. He often speaks of the dangers we may encounter, of the storms that can rise without warning and the reefs that could tear our ship apart. But there is a thrill in his warnings, a promise of the kind of life I've always dreamed of, one full of risk, but also full of reward. The days turn into weeks as we sail south, and I begin to grow more accustomed to the life on board. The constant movement of the ship, the creaking of the wood, the smell of salt water in the air, it all becomes part of me. I still think of home sometimes, of my father and mother, of my siblings. I wonder if they think of me, if they are angry or sad that I left. But the thought of returning never crosses my mind. I have made my choice, and I must see it through. One evening, as the sun sets and the sky turns a brilliant shade of orange, I stand on the deck, looking out at the endless expanse of water. A sense of awe fills me. The sea stretches in every direction, a boundless, mysterious world. In that moment, I realize that this is where I am meant to be. There is nothing more powerful than the sea, and I am its servant. The wind whispers in my ear, carrying with it the promise of new lands, new adventures, and the life I have always dreamed of. As the days pass, I start to understand what it means to be a sailor. Life at sea is hard, and the work is constant. The ship is always in motion, and there is no rest from the tasks at hand. We sail through calm waters one day, only to be hit by fierce winds and rainstorms the next. The ship creaks and groans under the pressure, but it always stays afloat. The men aboard speak of strange lands, of cities on the coast of Africa and the riches that await those brave enough to seek them. I listen to their stories, hanging on every word, knowing that soon I will see these places with my own eyes. One morning, as I stand at the bow of the ship, the lookout calls out, announcing land ahead. The sight of it fills me with excitement. Africa, the place I had only heard about in stories. The land looks wild, untamed, with thick forests and towering mountains in the distance. I know that this is only the beginning of my journey. What will I find there? What dangers and opportunities lie in wait? There's only one way to find out. As we approach the shore, the crew prepares to disembark. I feel a nervous excitement in my chest. The land is unlike anything I have ever seen, rich, vibrant, and full of life. The air smells different. The sounds of strange animals echo through the trees. This is the world I've always dreamed of. And now, it is finally within my reach. The captain orders the crew to gather their supplies, and soon we are setting foot on African soil. The land is warm and unfamiliar, and every step I take feels like a leap into the unknown. I look around, taking in the strange sights and sounds, and I know that this moment will change my life forever. The world is vast, and I have only just begun to explore it. The land we step onto is like nothing I've ever seen before. The soil is rich and red, and the air is thick with the scent of unfamiliar plants and wild animals. The crew and I disembark, our feet sinking into the earth, and I can feel the pulse of the land beneath me. We are far from home, and yet I feel a strange sense of belonging here, as though this is where I was meant to be. The captain and some of the men head toward a nearby village to trade with the locals. I stay behind with a few of the sailors, helping to unload the cargo. As the day wears on, I notice how different everything seems. The sounds of the jungle are unlike anything I've ever heard. Strange birds call from the treetops, and the occasional growl of a distant animal reminds me of the dangers that lurk just beyond the reach of the village. In the evening, the captain returns with a small group of traders. They are men from the village, their skin dark as the night, and their clothing made of rough, woven materials. They carry strange, colorful goods, beads, spices, and fabrics, and I am fascinated by their stories of the land. They speak of vast deserts, hidden treasures, and kingdoms that have never seen a European. My curiosity grows with every word, and I can't help but imagine what it would be like to explore those places. Days turn into weeks as we trade with the locals and explore the area. I find myself increasingly captivated by the beauty of the land, the strange people, and the wild animals that roam the forests. One afternoon, the captain tells me that we will be setting off to a nearby island where there are rumors of gold and silver. The men are excited, and so am I. The thought of treasure, of riches beyond measure, fills me with ambition. We set sail to the island, and the sea becomes more unpredictable. The winds grow fierce, and the waves crash against the ship with greater force than I've ever felt before. We are tossed and turned, but the ship holds strong. I stand at the helm, my hands gripping the wheel as the ship cuts through the storm. The sky is dark, and the rain falls in sheets, but there is something exhilarating about the wildness of the sea. I feel alive in a way I never have before. After what feels like days of battling the storm, we finally sight land again. The island is smaller than I had imagined, but it is lush with thick forests and towering cliffs. We anchor near the shore and prepare to explore. The captain, with his seasoned crew, leads the way, and I follow closely behind, eager to see what treasures lie hidden on this strange island. As we venture into the jungle, the air grows thick with humidity, and the sounds of the forest grow louder. We make our way through the dense underbrush, hacking at vines and branches with our machetes. The island seems alive, its creatures watching us from the shadows. I feel a sense of excitement mixed with caution, as though every step we take could bring us closer to something extraordinary, or something dangerous. Hours pass, and we come across a clearing. In the center of it lies an ancient stone structure, covered in vines and moss. It is unlike anything I have ever seen before, pyramidal in shape, with intricate carvings on its walls. The captain orders us to investigate, and we approach cautiously. I can feel the weight of history in the air, as though this place holds secrets that have been buried for centuries. As we explore the ruins, we find strange artifacts, golden trinkets, carved figurines, and mysterious objects that seem to tell the story of a lost civilization. My heart races with excitement. These are the treasures we've been seeking, and yet there's something unsettling about it all. The more we uncover, the more I feel a sense of unease, as though we are disturbing something that should remain hidden. Suddenly, a loud noise echoes through the jungle. The ground shakes and the trees sway as though something massive is approaching. We turn, and out of the shadows, a group of men emerges, dressed in primitive clothing, their faces painted with war paint. They are the island's inhabitants, and they do not look pleased to see us. The air is thick with tension, and I can sense that we have crossed a line. The treasure we sought may not be the only thing this island holds. The captain raises his hand, signaling for us to retreat. We slowly back away from the clearing, keeping our eyes on the natives who watch us intently. It is clear that we are no longer welcome here, and I feel the weight of our intrusion pressing down on me. The island, once a place of adventure and promise, now feels like a dangerous, forbidden land. We make our way back to the ship, the tension thick in the air. The captain gives the order to leave the island, and as the ship sails away, I look back at the shore. The jungle is dark and silent, the ruins of the ancient civilization standing like a watchful guardian over the land. I know that this is not the last time I will encounter such places. There are more adventures to come, more lands to explore. But for now, we sail on, our journey continuing toward the next unknown. As we sail away from the island, I can't shake the feeling that something has been left behind, something more than just treasure. The island, with its strange ruins and hostile inhabitants, has left a mark on me. I feel as though I've stirred something deep within the earth, something ancient and powerful. The feeling grows stronger as the days pass. The jungle with its secrets, still lingers in my thoughts. We sail for weeks, continuing our trade and exploration along the coast of Africa. Each day brings new discoveries, new people, new landscapes, and new dangers. But nothing compares to the unease I feel whenever I think about the island we left behind. The air has changed. It feels thicker, more oppressive. Even the sea seems less inviting, its waves crashing harder against the ship. It was on a day like this, when the sky had turned a dull gray and the wind had shifted, that disaster struck. The storm came without warning. One moment the sea was calm, the sun shining down, and the next, the sky darkened as if it were nightfall. The wind howled like a wild animal, and the ship groaned under the pressure of the surging waves. The crew scrambled to secure the sails, but it was clear that we were no match for the power of the storm. The captain shouted orders, his voice barely audible over the crashing waves, but it was all in vain. The ship was tossed like a toy on the water. I clung to the mast with all my strength, my knuckles white, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear the crew shouting, some of them praying, others screaming in panic. The ship tilted sharply to one side, and I was thrown from my position, crashing to the deck. Everything spun wildly, the world upside down, and I could feel the ship breaking apart. I lost track of time. Minutes? Hours? It didn't matter. The storm raged on, and I was thrown overboard. The last thing I remember was the icy grip of the water as it swallowed me whole, pulling me down into the deep, cold sea. When I awoke, the first thing I noticed was the sound of the waves. The gentle lapping of water against the shore was the only noise I could hear. I opened my eyes and found myself lying on a sandy beach, the sun burning down on me. My head ached, my body bruised and sore, but I was alive. I tried to stand, but my legs were weak, and I stumbled as I rose to my feet. I looked around, but the ship was nowhere to be seen. The storm had taken it, and with it, the crew. I was alone. For a moment, panic surged through me. How had this happened? What would I do now? but I quickly pushed the panic aside. I was a survivor, and I would not let fear control me. I looked around for any signs of life, but the beach was empty. The land stretched out before me, wild and untamed. There was no sign of civilization, no familiar faces. I was stranded on a foreign shore, and I had no idea where I was. I forced myself to move. The first priority was finding food and water. I walked along the beach, searching for anything that could help me survive. After some time, I found a small stream that fed into the ocean. The water was fresh, and I drank deeply, grateful for it. I continued along the shore, hoping to find something more. My stomach growled, and I knew that without food, my situation would become desperate quickly. I soon came across a grove of trees filled with fruit. The sight of the ripe, colorful fruits brought a rush of relief. I picked several and ate greedily, savoring the sweet taste. It wasn't much, but it would keep me alive for the time being. As the sun began to set, I made camp for the night. I built a small fire using the dry wood I found on the beach, and as I sat beside it, I couldn't help but reflect on my situation. I had always dreamed of adventure, of discovering new lands and new people. But now that I was here, stranded on an unknown island, I began to realize how much I had taken for granted. I had been so eager to escape my old life, but now I faced the harsh reality of survival. The night was long and filled with strange noises. The cries of wild animals echoed through the trees, and I could hear the rustling of leaves in the distance. I stayed close to the fire, the warmth and light providing some comfort in the vast, dark wilderness. The next morning, I set out to explore the island. My goal was simple: find shelter, find more food, and figure out how to survive. The island was lush and dense with vegetation. I soon realized that I was not alone. As I ventured deeper into the jungle, I came across tracks in the mud, large animal tracks. I also saw signs of habitation, broken branches, footprints in the dirt, but there were no people in sight. It made my heart race. Who or what was living here? I kept moving, wary and alert, but my thoughts kept drifting back to the shipwreck. I was alone now. I had nothing but my wits and whatever resources the island had to offer. The next few days were a blur of survival. Each day I woke with the rising sun and set about securing food, water, and shelter. The island seemed endless in its wild beauty. Lush jungles, towering trees, and rocky cliffs that jutted out into the sea. I could never quite tell what dangers lurked in the dense vegetation, but I had no choice but to press on. As I explored the island, I learned to adapt to my new life. I crafted crude tools from stone and wood to help me hunt and gather. My skill at making fire became my greatest asset, and with it, I could cook whatever food I found. The fruit trees continued to supply me with nourishment, but I knew that I couldn't rely on them forever. I needed something more, something that would last. One morning, while searching for food in the forest, I stumbled upon a small herd of goats grazing near a stream. The sight of them filled me with a renewed sense of hope. Goats would provide milk, meat, and even skins for clothing. They were the key to my survival. I watched them from a distance, carefully planning my approach. For several days, I observed the goats, learning their habits. Finally, I managed to trap one, using a rope made from vines and a pit I had dug. I felt a surge of triumph as I looked at the goat, realizing that I had secured a source of food that would last me. With the goat in hand, I began building a small shelter. something more permanent than the makeshift camp I had been using. I found a large cave near the beach, its entrance hidden by thick foliage, and decided to make it my home. I spent weeks settling into my new life. The cave became my refuge, and from there I ventured out each day to hunt and gather. My skill at building traps grew, and I soon had a steady supply of food, goat meat, fish from the nearby stream, and wild fruits. I even found a source of fresh water deep within the jungle, hidden in a valley I had discovered while exploring. I was slowly building a life on the island, though the isolation weighed heavily on me. At times, loneliness threatened to break me. The silence of the island, the absence of human voices was deafening. I had no one to talk to, no one to share my thoughts with. I often found myself talking to the animals as if they could understand me. But they remained silent, and the days stretched on, one after another, as I struggled to come to terms with my fate. I thought often of home, of my family, my father, and my mother. What would they think of me now? Would they ever know what happened to me? I feared that they might have given up hope of ever seeing me again. Yet, a part of me had accepted that I might never return. This island, with all its dangers and its beauty, had become my world. It was both a prison and a paradise. My life was now defined by survival. One afternoon, as I sat by the fire cooking some fish, I heard a strange noise in the distance, a low, guttural sound that sent a shiver down my spine. It was unlike anything I had ever heard before. My heart raced, and I instinctively grabbed my spear, the only weapon I had. I crouched behind a large rock and waited, listening. The sound grew louder, closer. My breath caught in my throat as I realized that something, or someone, was approaching. I peered cautiously around the rock and caught a glimpse of movement in the jungle. Figures emerged. Men, but not like any men I had ever seen before. They were dressed in primitive clothing, their faces painted with strange symbols. They carried spears and shields, and their eyes were wild with suspicion. My heart pounded in my chest. Who were these people? What did they want? I held my breath, hoping they wouldn't see me. My first instinct was to run, to flee deeper into the jungle and hide. But I knew that if I did, I might never be able to come back to my shelter. These men might have been hostile, but they might also be the first humans I had seen in months. I decided to stay hidden and watch. For hours I watched them as they moved through the jungle, seemingly unaware of my presence. They gathered food, hunted, and made camp in the clearing not far from where I had taken refuge. As the night fell, they lit a fire and began to chant, their voices low and rhythmic. I could see their faces now, illuminated by the flickering flames. Their eyes were filled with an intensity I couldn't understand, and I wondered what kind of people they were. I knew that I had to be careful. I had no idea what these men might do if they discovered me. I had survived alone on this island for months, and I wasn't about to let that change now. But I couldn't deny that part of me longed for the company of others, for a chance to speak with someone who might understand what I had been through. The night passed slowly, and I kept my distance. The next day, when I dared to venture closer, I saw that the men had left. Their campfire was extinguished, and the jungle was silent again. I ventured out cautiously, making sure not to leave any tracks behind. The encounter had left me shaken, and I knew I had to be more careful from now on. For days I stayed close to my shelter, wary of any more visitors. But the memory of the strange men lingered in my mind. Who were they? What did they want? And what did my future hold on this desolate island?